wanted to go live last couple days, but was not able. Hopefully the sound coming from my trailer right now is not overwhelming. The buzz, if you hear that. But I wanted to come to you today with something else that came to me just now. And that is that war is natural. And what I mean by that, what Spirit means by that, is these times that we live in, we have these ideals, and I've had them too, where we have these utopian visions of what the world is supposed to be like, what the world is supposed to look like, what we are supposed to be experiencing. And yes, to a degree, we are supposed to be experiencing utopia and bliss and peace. But one thing that I've realized, and that I hear now, is that war is natural. Let me explain. There is the idea that change is always necessary. Change is always happening. Change is the only constant. And the only way that change is accomplished is through friction. Friction creates heat. Heat eventually creates fire, and fire purifies. Fire changes things. It changes the nature. It changes a solid gold bar into a liquid gold. It changes water into steam. It changes. It creates a type of alchemy. You cannot change the nature of a thing without fire. The seasons change when the temperatures change, right? The animals, they go into their mating seasons based on the seasons changing. What time of the month or what time of the year is going on. This is about the elements. This is about the blurred lines between one point of time and another. This time that we live in, this is a time of fire. This is a time between time. As we used to say in church back in the day, this is the gray area between one dispensation and another. And these periods of time, these periods of friction from one idea, right, to another idea, from one perspective of reality to another perspective of reality, right? Because this entire realm is mind, the mind of God, right? But each phase, each eon, as I'll call it, or as it is called rather, each millennium, right? Each age, if you're looking at the zodiac, the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, they're all a specific way of thinking, a specific way of seeing reality. And without each way, we don't have a full and total 360-degree perspective that God is experiencing of him or herself. And so the peace that we experience, the peace that we long for, that happens in the middle part. That happens in the fixed points of every season, in the fixed points of every dispensation, of every age, where nothing moves, right? You have the cardinal point, the fixed point, and the mutable point. The beginning, the middle, and the end. And this is why reality is the way that it is, and the number 9 being the completion of what this universe is all about. The spiral. It's I don't know if this is making sense, and to some it will, and to some it will not. I get that. But what I'm saying is that we do everything in threes. We do everything with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in the middle is when everything seems to be okay, when everything is at peace, when everything is fixed, when nothing is moving. When we're saying, wow, this is the way that things are, and it will always be, and it seems that it will always be this way. But in order for time and life to continue throughout the cycles of death and rebirth and all of these things, change has to come. Change has to happen. The fire has to be ignited. The friction has to come. It's natural. The war between one perspective or one thing, one species, one whatever, and another. It has to. This is why we have species going extinct and new species being born every day. It is the innumerable infiniteness of God. Like God is constantly recreating itself in new ways that we've never seen before. And yet all of these things are not new, because it's eternal. These things have come before, I'm sure, in some form or fashion. That is a really huge wasp or hornet on my truck right now. Anyway, never seen one that big. My point is that this is necessary. These periods that we experience that cause this friction, that cause this heat, that cause this fire, that creates the change and the purification and the alchemical process, it's necessary for the differentiation of God, for us to see every facet, every aspect of God. It's necessary. Peace will come, but not before the fire purges us. Peace will come, and it will last for a long time, but not before there is war in the heavens and the earth. Not before there is friction and fighting and elements coming together, creating hurricanes and tornadoes and snowstorms and all kinds of crazy things. All of this is in the design of the great mind that we live inside of. All of it. Even the things that seem to be evil or what's the word that I'm looking for? I can't think of it right now, but the things where, you know, we feel like people are doing certain things on purpose. Yeah, they're doing things on purpose, but from their perspective, they're just fighting for their perspective. This is what argument and debate is, right? I see it my way, so I'm going to continue to do it my way. You see it your way, so you're going to continue to do it your way. And eventually, something has to give. Eventually, we come to a consensus. We come to an agreement that says, okay, I'm going to shift the way I look at it, and you're going to shift the way you look at it, and now we can meet in the middle. now we can say, this is what it's going to be. This is the contract that we have with one another. And then peace follows. It's the same thing even on a microscopic level as it pertains to this virus. The virus wants what it wants. The body wants what it wants. Eventually, one overtakes the other. And agreement takes place. Absolutely. Absolutely, J. Dwayne Garrett. And so I was just sitting here and I was just meditating and thinking and contemplating on these changes that are taking place. And I think about the deity, Eshu or Legba, and how he is this chaotic force in the universe. How it is this chaotic force in the universe that creates change. He is neither good nor bad. Hello, Kelly Lynn Prime. He's neither good nor bad. He gives you what you ask him. But you got to be specific, because he'll give it to you in a certain way that you may not have wanted it. But it is the force. It is the force of love. It is the force of chaos. It is the force of change. But the only way that he brings change is by creating chaos, by creating friction, by creating fire that causes things to just go crazy for a time. And so I want you to rest in the peace that comes with the understanding that war is natural, that war is necessary, that you can have that peace that passes all understanding, as the Bible talks about, right? Why would it pass all understanding? Absolutely. Absolutely, Kali is kind of like that. Why would there be a peace that passes understanding unless there are circumstances that seem like there is no peace? It means that a person who has this kind of peace is a person who has peace in the middle of chaos. It's really hot in this truck right now, but I don't want you guys to hear that motor running. And so in this time, in this season of chaos, the world is never going to be the same. If you're really paying attention, the world is never going to be the same. We're having realizations that we've never had. We're seeing society like we've never seen. Things are changing. We're realizing what's most important. Like I talked about before when I talked about home, right? We're realizing how our connections matter. We're realizing who we need to disconnect from. We're realizing all sorts of things. The world is changing. And this is the period, the middle, or the I forget the word I use for it, but it's the in-between period. So nothing is going to seem sure. Nothing is going to seem solid like a foundation. And so that's why you have to find your foundation inside of yourself. You have to find the peace inside of yourself, because the chaos that is going on outside of us is not going to end anytime soon until the changes have fully been made. Absolutely. Pivot point. It's not going to end. And so you have to begin. You have to be the core of the hurricane. While everything else is doing this, you have to be the peace. While nature naturally goes to war against itself to create change, don't forget that nature comes from spirit. Everything does. This natural world, this physical reality comes from spirit. And so, when it is doing all the things that it is doing, spirit is still very calm, very cool, very collected, because it knows it has control over nature, being nature's parent or progenitor. If it dies, it dies. Rocky IV. If it lives, it lives. It's the natural order of things. If it dies, it was meant to be purified in the fire. If it lives, it is time for that thing to be utilized in the natural order of things. Governments, states, cities, clans, tribes, families, couples. From the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, there is conflict, there is friction, there is fire that is causing the realignment of everything. Everything. Pain will be there. But so will purpose. There's always a purpose. And so if you want to experience peace, it has to be experienced within. Until eventually that moment of agreement happens. And in the fixed period between one age and another, we experience that peace on the outer or on the outside. It's natural. It's natural. Accept it. Realize that you need it. Utopia, it'll come. But it will be born out of war. It will be born out of friction. It will be born out of the realization that comes in the time of purification, in the process of purging. War is natural. Talk to y'all later. Love you.